We're live. We're on.
Okay, we're seeing Mike. Good morning. This is the Allegheny County IDA meeting for October 10th, 2024. And we have a number of people in the room and on the screen, so we'll go around and let people say their names. So Rich, you want to start?
Rich Ewell.
John Rickey.
Craig Clark, Executive Director.
Barb Benjamin, Operations Director.
Doug Fry.
Randy Shaler.
Judy Hopkins. And on the screen is Mike Zimmerman, who we will be talking with in just a few minutes. Okay, first order of business is to see if there are any conflicts of interest about our agenda today.
Okay, I have what I would say is a potential conflict of interest. We're going to be talking about insurance, and I work for AJ Gallagher, and that's the agency that insures the IDA for all lines of coverage. And I don't receive any compensation based on any of these policies, but I do work for the agency.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay. Okay, the first order of business is we're going to talk with Mike Zimmerman. So, Mike, are you all set? And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you again. I'm Mike Zimmerman, Senior Vice President of the Harrison Studio. And consulting firm has been brought on to assist with actually a few different projects, but specifically the Micro Enterprise Grant Program. So that's what I'm here to update you on today. So just to recap, I'm sure you all kind of remember all this and know all this, but the Micro Enterprise Program, we're nearing the end of our contract period. Actually, we're only a month away from the termination of that date from OCR, and this was a $300,000 grant to make small grants up to $35,000 to eligible micro enterprise and startup businesses throughout the county. So just to recap, we ultimately had 10 awardees move forward with the program. We, to date, have drawn down funds for 8 of those awardees that completed their projects successfully. We have 2 outstanding that we're still waiting on. One of them I spoke to not recently, which concerns me a little, but over the summer, and they were moving forward and they were getting their documentation together, but I haven't heard much since. The other I spoke to yesterday, still moving forward. However, the timeline of it being completed by a month from yesterday, basically, is going to be challenging for him. So, and stop me obviously if there's any questions or you want to talk in more detail about any of those. But one thing I wanted to talk about with you all today is the OCR, the State Office of Community Renewal that grants these funds to the county. They've actually got a new policy on how to allocate additional funding to existing and what they consider high-performing communities, which we believe that Allegheny County is. So just to step back, and I'm sure you'll all remember, these are 2-year grants, and every couple of years, when you're interested in getting more funding, we go through a new application process where we have to go to the county, get authorization to apply for a new allotment of funds, hold a public hearing, submit a whole new online application, start a whole program over from scratch every time. And that's what we've done in Allegheny County and many other communities for a long time. The OCR, they really love this micro program as being kind of a pipeline of accessible funding for small businesses in communities throughout the state. And they want to make it easier for communities that know how to run these programs and do it successfully to access the funds and kind of have a constant flow of funds as much as you can, so that this can become part of your economic development toolkit that you can really count on. So they've made a little bit of a change, or a big change, I guess, to their process in that, whereas before it was again, apply for 300,000, you have 2 years to spend it. The next time you want it, you gotta apply again. Now they've developed a mechanism where if you have an existing program, like Allegheny County does, that is near completion and it's been successful, rather than apply for a whole new set of funds, you can submit a one-time request to just extend your existing program by 13 months and request additional funding to spend in those 13 months up to potentially another $300,000 or however much you think you need and can spend in another 13 months. So a little bit of rather than starting a new grant program, they're willing to pour more money into existing programs that are successful. That's a one-time thing, so if we did move forward with that 13 months from now, if you wanted to continue, then you'd have to reapply to a whole new pot of funding. But that way, you know, existing programs that are operating successfully can kind of extend their life. So I wanted to mention that and get that on your minds and talk about what that might look like if the IDA and the county were interested in doing that. It'd be a great opportunity to bring more money into a program and continue this program. You know, I've already talked with Greg, obviously, and even the partners in this program, like Accord and Incubator Works, because the business that goes through their programs are the ones that come into this grant program. And there is certainly a pipeline of more businesses that are interested and eligible. So I don't think we'd have the issue in you know, finding places to spend additional funding over 13 months. So I guess I'll leave that as, you know, what the potential step forward is for this program. I want to see, you know, what you all thought about that, if you had any questions on or that way.
The timing is good because we just had Carissa and Tim Boyd show up from the county. And what Mike was explaining is there's now a process with OCR, which we can basically get up to another $300,000 by just extending the grant if we have people that are interested.
Well, that's great news.
So you don't have to actually reapply yet.
We like not having to reapply. It's kind of a pain.
And you have, I know you've talked to Incubator Works and Accord. Do you have any idea? I mean, I would guess you mentioned originally at least 150,000, but do you think we could spend more than that?
Yeah, well, it depends on how aggressive we want to be. So I looked at, if you all remember, when we had taken in applications before and we scored them and, you know, awarded the top scoring applications, we had another 5 or 6
Right.
who at least would be eligible for funding. They scored lower for a variety of reasons.
Right.
But eligible. So first things first is you'd want to reach out to those businesses
Correct.
to see if they were still interested and you know, maybe we're good candidates. And just among that group, if you funded all of them, which I'm sure we wouldn't, but if you did, you'd be at about $150 or more $1,000 in projects. I don't have a sense yet from a quantity of what would come out of Accord and Incubator Works, existing pipeline, but I did talk with them and they were, adamant that they have lots of businesses that are aware of this program, interested in it, and want, a bite of the apple. So I feel very comfortable that, we only have 13 months to spend it.
Right.
So it is a faster timeline. So starting, with new applicants and things is a little challenging. But I have no doubt that something in the 150 range would be doable, maybe more, but we don't want to get over our skis.
No, we would like to make sure we get it spent, yes.
Right.
I've had 2 or 3 actually contact me as well, so I know we've got enough in the pipeline to probably do at least 150 without much trouble.
Yeah.
So I would think that's the way to go, right, Carissa?
I would think so.
I would think the board would be willing to do that, because really it's just extending.
So.
It's been really successful.
Oh, really has, and most all the companies have actually still still working, which is even better.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, Mike. So what do we need to do?
There's a request packet that OCR has that we'll complete with you. The county will have to sign it and submit it, ultimately showing, really just summarizes what we've done to date, what we think we could spend additionally, and that's why we're requesting it. So we do have to have a list of potential businesses. We don't have to fund them, but
Right.
we have to show them what our pipe, basically. So, and we want to get that in obviously before the end of this contract, which I think is November 9th, I believe.
How much have we spent over what time frame? In the original micro enterprise activity?
So of the original 300,000, there is 56,000 and change remaining to spend. But some of that is the administrative costs, our fees. So when you back those out as well, we only have, just looking at my tracker here, $30,000 in funding that we haven't spent for businesses. We haven't allocated to those two that I had initially started talking about at the top. They just haven't completed their requirements yet, so we haven't spent it.
So we've been pretty effective, I think.
In what time frame?
It's been,
Just under 2 years.
Yeah.
So this is half the time. 13 months, this is half the time frame, right?
Yeah, it is. But one thing to really remember, going back to the start of this program, and Craig, you can remember this.
yes,
That 2-year contract, I think the first 6 months at least between procurement and getting your program design and
and final approvals, yeah.
everything, that's lost time up front. We've only been working with these businesses for, not even a year and a half.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating how long it takes to get it up and running, but it's not your fault, it's OCR. You know that.
They're a pain.
But it's been good money.
Absolutely, but it's a painful
So that's why it's
process.
nice if we don't have to go through the whole process, we can actually jumpstart and actually, I think we'd be very easily spending 150, maybe a little bit more.
Hey, Mike, this is Doug Frank. You had mentioned that most of these businesses are still going. Can we get detail on each one of them, or is that impossible to tell, who's going and, who's folded up, or, is there any way of tracking them?
No, I can absolutely send you what I have on all of them. I think we can get that out in an email after this meeting, yeah.
Okay.
I know the first ones are all still operational. Now the question is, I would guess the other ones are because they just got the money.
Mike, this is Judy. Just to follow up on Doug's question, as you give us a summary of those, if there have been any changes in what they did, if they changed their plan a little bit or whatever, would that be included? I'm aware of a couple of them, and it seems like it turned out to be a little different than what we thought it was going to be. So that's what I'm looking for. It's just any changes.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And just to summarize for people listening as well as all of us, what we're asking for is less money, but and less time, but because we're already established in this program, it should be fine to be able to meet those requirements with OCR.
Well, we also, the very first time, I know you can do it this time, we had a 2-3 month extension. So, it's not a hard line 12 months. We want to get it done in 12 months. But if you have a number of them in process, last time we got an extension for a couple of months. So I think that's still an option. So it may be the same time frame that we've already had.
And the requirements, or not the requirements, but the stipulations would still be the same. They would be asking for the same amount of money as what was available before, but just fewer clients. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, and that's an important note on this, is when you get this kind of extension on your program, one of OCR's caveats is, since you're extending an existing program, you really can't change how you're operating it. So it's gonna be the same requirements, same funding structures. If, in the future, we wanna run the program differently, have different funding rules or something, that would be when we apply for a new pot of funding.
Mhm.
So this will be the same.
Okay, thank you. Are there some other questions? Great.
That's good news,
Sounds
Mike.
very
Thank
good
you.
news. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, now, in terms of procedures, where do we go next, Mike? What's the next step?
Well, I suppose we should probably have something official today on, wanting to pursue additional funding and place a dollar amount on that, maybe even just up to X amount. And then Greg and I can kind of, if we take a look at what the pipeline is and think 150 or 175 makes sense, have the latitude to do that if we have approval for, up to 175, or whatever the board feels comfortable with. But I think we should do that today, and then we can work with the county, obviously. And
All the paperwork.
Okay, good. Board, are we ready to do that?
Yeah, I guess the only question I have is, what is the limiting factor? Why are we looking at 150 instead of the 300? Is it number of applicants? Is it our ability to administer the program? What's the limiting factor that helps us to set the 150, 175?
Yeah, that number just came from what we already know, folks have applied for. But that doesn't take into account all of the other potential businesses that, again, are coming through, like the ACORD program. So you could certainly be right that we could go to full 300 and spend that. There could be that appetite out there. I just landed at that 150-ish range based on that's what we already kind of know they've come before us. But I'm certainly aggressive, so if you want to go higher, that's fine with me.
Now, this is just one quick question for you. What are the risks of requesting the 300 and coming short? Are there any risks that are involved as far as future applications and grant opportunities?
It's a good question, and I think there is a risk. I don't think it's enormous. First of all, you don't receive the funding until it's all reimbursement and everything, so it's not like we get money and then have to hand it back or something. So there's no kind of financial risk. Certainly, if you request funding and aren't able to spend all of it, that is a bit of a black eye in terms of applying for more funding from the state. It would not in any way, blacklist the county or anything. But when we would go to then apply for a new program in a couple of years, that would be something we would have to really speak to is, why we weren't able to and why the next time around we know we're going to have enough activity and enough funding. So it makes it a little more challenging, in future years, but it certainly is not a definite element anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't do less than 200 personally, and then if you don't mind, the board, I wanted the board to say up to 3. If we can verify that we have enough people from ACORD, Incubator Works, and the 5 we already have, we'll go up to 3. Why not be more aggressive, I think.
Well, I agree. I think besides the areas that we've already reached out to, we could reach out to, to the bankers and find out if they have contacts.
Well, the real issue is 13 months. They have to have training by ACORD or Incubator Works and the program. And I think we need to really, at this time, in the short period of time, see who's got the training done. which may be some of the bankers too, but I'm just saying if they
I
haven't
I
had,
think they'd have some ideas.
but if they haven't had the
If
training
we end
done,
up short.
we're not gonna have enough time to do everything. Right, Mike? I mean, that's my concern, is they really have to have already gone through the training.
One other question from me anyway, on the, I know in the past, it's not possible for an applicant to be, part of this program and still be working on, a program from another grant. Is that true? So I'm just wondering, but is it possible though the previous applicants can apply again if they are not involved in another grant? Or, and the other half of that is the ones that are still working on their grant in this round, are they allowed to apply in the next round too? Because they would have already had the training and so on that we've just talked about.
Sure. So there's some nuance there. If someone had been awarded a grant previously under a previous contract, they're certainly eligible to receive another one under this one. Have to be a new project, new accomplishments and everything, but they could come back in. The folks who are already in this grant, like they can't apply again under the same grant. But, you know, again, that's a pretty small number. The other kind of caveat, because we ran into this when we were setting up this micro program, is I'm sure you all remember at that time, we also had the COVID relief program through CDBG that helped a number of businesses in the county. And we did run into an issue there where the state told us that you can't have a business getting funding from the COVID relief and the micro at the same time under these two open contracts. So we did have some that bumped up against that. I think we're far enough past that COVID relief funding that anybody who did receive money under that would be eligible to move forward now. So I would want to open that back up to them. But it was an issue we bumped into before. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the board? Are we ready to proceed then? Okay, we will need a motion. If someone would like to word that motion, or perhaps Craig would like to word it and then we'll say, yes, that's what we're looking for, or no, we're not.
Yeah, I would think the motion would be that we'll work with Mike on submitting in the county, submitting an extension to our grant up to $300,000.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rich. Second, John. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'll work with Mike and the other two parties to figure out if that's a reasonable number.
Okay.
We'll go as high as we can.
Okay, that motion is passed. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that.
Thanks for doing a good job.
Absolutely. Thank you. Take care.
Bye now.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it really has been good because like you said, we've helped a lot of companies.
Yep.
Between the other one was 22 companies. This one was another 10. So we've helped over 30 small companies in the county, which is huge.
Mhm.
And you can't get, $35,000 a grant money. It just isn't available.
If we make you some room, you want to sit up?
Yeah.
Good
You're
right
comfortable?
here.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
That's fine.
camera, I love it.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm used to being like front and center, so.
Yeah, well, you're on camera, but.
We got your arm. We only have your arm.
Yeah, hopefully we're all.
Your left arm, how's that?
We're all pretty tiny in the picture, I hope. Anyway, Chris and Knapp and Tim Boyd have joined us for the meeting, and we're happy to have them from the county. Okay, let's figure out where we are on our agenda then,
Well, we can go right through the agenda. We can do the executive meeting at the end.
at the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that okay?
sounds good. Okay, first order of business then is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Need a motion on that? Thank you, Rich.
Second. Rich, Randy.
Do not
All
fire
ours.
me, Rich.
How about Okay, we have a motion and a second on approving the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, and again, thank you, Barb, for the detail on the minutes. Okay, treasurer's report would be next, the abstract report, the expenses. Let's take a look at that. And we'll accept a motion to approve that.
I'll move on that, Judy.
Thank you, Doug.
I'll
Second, John, thank you. A minute. Are there any questions about that?
Did the fee come in, Craig, from the wind project?
Not yet. I can discuss that about now. Basically, we sent them the invoice as per how we discussed, and they will be sending us a letter approving that any day. And once they do that, the project will close and we'll get the funds. So it should be next week.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if not, all those in favor of approving that, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And next is the banking and financial summary.
Yeah, if you look at the banking, we did close the 4 NSF projects up in Burns, so that's why we have so much money in the funds right now. So the only 2 projects that aren't closed are the one Wellsville project and the Cuba one, which is kind of on hold.
Need a motion to approve that?
So, John?
Okay, John?
Second.
Second, Rich, thank you. Okay, any questions? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is passed. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna review the longer term use of funds, but we're going to.
We can talk about that. We had a
Yeah.
meeting with Wyoming County IDA and Doug and Randy. It's not Rich, right, Randy? We're in a meeting with Jim Pierce, and it was a really good, I think, discussion, a first discussion. We haven't come up with recommendations yet to the board, but it was really nice to hear how they've used their money for long-term projects, which primarily have been loan funds. And we can discuss that in more detail, and we'll discuss how we can maybe do that in the future. But yeah, I know what you think, Randy and Doug. I thought it was a good first meeting.
I agree.
So they've been very effective in using their funds, and they've kept them, and that's what they've done. Most of it is revolving loan funds. They have 3 or 4 large revolving loan funds, plus some land that they bought. So they've been doing some good things with their funds.
Doug, how much, this is probably a dumb question, of our cash is FDIC insured per account? Is it 300?
Yeah, I think it's the 300. I was tracking that myself.
So, I mean, we're 88,000 over that at Community Bank. Should we see if they can collateralize that, or should we move some of that to a different, I don't know. I guess it would be at a different bank, right?
Well, we have
Or
one.
should we not worry about it because it's 88,000 over?
What do you think, Doug? I can talk to the bank.
Yeah, I think we should. I don't know that it would be necessary to change banks. We might be able to switch it to a different account, but I'm not sure of that either.
Okay, and then we're gonna have, how much is the fee gonna
It'd
be?
be quite a bit more. That's what we got to discuss.
So we'll probably have to do something.
I'll bring
Yeah.
recommendations from the bank at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. How we can make sure that it's insured.
From Community Bank?
Yeah, I'll talk to them
Okay.
to start with.
All
I
right.
think it's been our long-term bank, so.
What bank is that, on Main Street in
Yeah.
Wellsville?
We deal with the one right here in Belmont.
In Belmont, okay. Yeah, all right, thanks.
That's convenient.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay, good question, thank you. Okay, and we'll probably have some other discussion on that, as we go along as well. So how about a building maintenance report, Craig?
The only thing I had, which I sent out, is this building is no problems operational. I did get a request from one of the owners of land adjacent to our Belmont property that there's an old ash tree that they would like us to take down, and it's pretty sure it is on our property. It's hard to define, but it's right about the fence line. So I guess the question is, I can get some prices. I mean, it's not gonna fly tomorrow. It's an old ash tree.
Is it deceased?
It's dead.
Oh,
It's dead.
Oh, it's dead. And obviously the owner is concerned that it could eventually fall.
It's on our property for sure.
That's what I'm gonna verify. I'm
If
just
it
bringing it
falls-
to the board, what it would cost and if it is on our property.
If it falls, what would it fall on?
The owner's house, that's what
On
he's
the
worried
house,
about.
okay, I'm just saying, if it's gonna fall, you know,
But
if
it,
you feel.
I looked at it,
Covered.
I looked at it this
Nature.
morning and it's very close to the property line. So I don't know for sure. I'm gonna try to verify if it's on the property line and I'll.
How do you know it's dead? I mean, is it no leaves?
Oh, there's nothing on it. It's dead.
Most of the ash around here are.
I've got one in my
dying or
backyard
dead
that's
right
close
now.
to dead, and this one is really dead. There's not even much bark on it.
Well, I think it's on our property, we probably should take it down.
Yeah, that's why I wanna get prices and verify. I just letting the board know, I just found out about it this week.
You have a chainsaw, John?
Yeah, mine's just a little one. I don't have a big
We'll
one.
buy you a bigger one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not anymore.
That's my only, property type issue,
Okay,
nothing in the buildings.
all right. Okay, thank you, then, we'll move on to,
Who would you call about that?
I've got a number, it's up to you. I was figuring one of our grantees, a couple of our grantees, that's what they do.
Okay. I was
Small
just gonna
businesses.
say, what's the guy's name from, Alfred? that's
Alfred,
got the-
I'll also let him know.
What's his name?
Oh, I know who you mean.
McGraw.
McGraw.
yeah, Tim McGraw.
Yeah,
No,
Josh,
Tim.
he's got that
Josh,
thing.
he's got the fancy thing, yeah.
He sets it
Yeah,
down.
nice.
I mean,
I'll get more than one price.
Yeah, right, and I mean, also safety, like, nobody has to climb it, he doesn't climb trees.
He doesn't climb it.
He just
Yeah,
reaches
one of
his
our
arm.
grantees is Phil.
That's what I'm saying, that's why I thought I'd at least
Yeah.
ask him, because I think
He
whatever,
did work for us, so.
yeah, and I've heard he's done
Okay.
As
good
did
work.
Aaron.
Yeah, okay.
I'd get, a couple of prices like that, bring them to the board.
Yeah, okay.
Aaron McGrath
Yes.
takes.
Oh, you're gonna take it
shirt
down?
off.
Well,
Yeah,
Because he's
Um,
jacked. Yeah.
of course it's gonna
we
be.
have other things I want to
I've
make
never
sure,
seen him do that.
we talk about later. Our state code enforcement inspects all of our office locations, did inspect these buildings, and they did note a couple of things.
Okay.
to repair. I just want to make, I gotta catch you later on.
Yeah, we'll take care of whatever, you know that.
There's some stuff I think we could work together on.
Okay.
repairing.
Okay.
Okay. All right, the action item is to discuss updates to the insurance for the IDA. You want to talk about that now or later?
Well, I've talked to Chase somewhat, but I know Chase has also talked to
Yeah, I
Rich,
met with him this
so,
morning.
yeah, so Rich can give us the update.
Okay.
I'll just repass out, if that's a word, what he gave out last time.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I thought I had enough for.
We're just casual.
All right, okay, so, my point was, just to take everybody back to the history of this whole thing is, the IDA, pretty much since the new iteration of the IDA, back in the, 90s, after the Mickey Martell era, had really no insurance and no money to buy insurance. And so for years, we just didn't really have any or very much insurance. And then over the years, we've been able to, purchase this building, build that building, have to have insurance on that. And then several years ago, we didn't even have D&O, directors and officers insurance, because again, no money, no assets. And, theoretically, in New York State, if you, and this is theoretically, are on a not-for-profit board and you're not paid, there is some protection for you. And also, because we're appointed by the county, as long as we're acting within our duties as board members, there's protection under the county's D&O policy, in my opinion, after reading policy. But, all that depends, all that coverage for things for us personally, to protect our personal assets, if somebody sues us, because people can sue us for anything, not approving a pilot or whatever happens, we can be sued. The coverage depends on the allegations contained in that lawsuit. So if the lawsuit triggers coverage from the county, or, you know, if the state's gonna protect us, great, then we don't have anything to worry about. And I think the board in the past was worried, well, what if, and some of you probably, what if that doesn't cover us? So that's why we bought our own directors and officers policy, and that's a $1 million policy for wrongful acts. That's not for people getting hurt, for bodily injury or property damage. It's for, you know, just wrongful acts. It could be discrimination. It could be, you know, maybe land use where we don't approve something and somebody takes issue with that. So we have $1 million of coverage on that.
Rich, let me interrupt you if I may.
Yeah.
$1 million is for the aggregate, so it's
Is-
like $200K per person.
No, it's $1 million, and however that gets allocated, like if the board members got sued, probably each one of us would be named, and the insurance company would defend us, and then they'd have $1 million to defend us and indemnify us if there was an award. So that's a good question, yeah. It's not allocated, you know, typically per person, but like, let's say you and Judy pushed an issue, and maybe we all got sued, but maybe the judge awards more from you two, you know, there's still only the $1 million, and I don't know how that would be allocated, you know. There's nothing in the policy that says exactly how something like that would roll. So, you know, again, how much exposure do we have? I don't know. I know that I don't want to have to go, you know, pay a mortgage and pay my house off again and things like that, you know, if I lose everything because I'm sued because of, I'm not covered by the county or not covered by the state for my actions on the IDA board. But we do have that policy. And then, you know, we have just a typical policy, as you can imagine. I won't talk about the property because that's very well covered, but if somebody slips and falls or is hurt in our parking lot, that we actually lease to the, let's say we lease it to the county.
Right.
But we still own it. And, you know, that would be kind of convoluted if somebody got hurt there. I don't know exactly how it would work, but we would see. But we have $1 million of liability coverage for bodily injury or property damage at this premises, plus $1 million umbrella. So you'd have $2 million anytime anything happens here on this premises right here. And then we have a separate policy that is for $1 million that covers our liability only at the truck stop, at the Belmont parking lot, and the Friendship property. So if somebody bodily injury or property damage at that location, we'd have up to $1 million of coverage for that. So we have all these different parts and pieces. Then we have the ACUC, which we all sit on that board. Now, is the county's directors and officers going to cover us on that ACUC board? I don't know. I don't think so. And the CRC, same thing. I mean, we don't have a lot of exposure on the CRC, but you know, we still sit on the board. All we do is pretty much issue bonds out of that, right? I mean, that's all we do, and collect a fee to do it. And then the ACUC, you know, this isn't an ACUC meeting, but you know, we all sit on that ACUC board. I don't know, John, are you on that board? Yeah, you're on that board now. And you know, there's on that policy, there's $1 million of coverage for liability for the water line and a $4 million umbrella. So there's $5 million of coverage on that, but that's just for bodily injury, property damage. Like, let's say the whole town of Friendship gets poisoned and it turns out our line was backing up into theirs, and you know, there's some real liability. We'd have up to $5 million to, you know, pay for a claim like that. So I worry that some of our limits are only $1 million. So, you know, my point with that email I sent was just to kind of let everybody know this. And it's very confusing. I mean, it would be nice if all these policies only had $1 million worth of coverage, and then we had one giant umbrella sitting over all of those for like 5 million or 10 million or something, probably 5 million or 3 million, something like that. So it would sit over the $1 million on this premises. It would sit over the Million in Friendship in Belmont. It would sit over, it would sit over the ACUC if that's possible. And we're all related. It's the same control, the same board. So it's possible we can have all these entities on one umbrella policy. So that was kind of my point. It would cost some money, but you'd be getting rid of your umbrella that's over this place. You'd be getting rid of your liability umbrella that's over the ACUC in that scenario. And you'd be replacing it with one separate umbrella that would go over everything we have. So, I mean, it might be another 5,000 a year, 2,000 a year, 10,000. I have no idea what something like that would cost. And we'd have to find out. But so that's why I brought this up. I don't think what we have now is bad. I think it's good. But we're going to have more money. And so number one, we're going to be a bigger target. And as we start to use this money for economic development, are we going to be creating controversy or, and people, are we going to be doing more than we do now? And do we want to, have some different kind of protection for, mainly for the board members?
Right.
I think, and then it would also protect our cash we're going to have in the bank, because we are going to have cash in the bank now. So.
Well, and one thing that comes to mind for me is some of these fees that we're charging. What if something happens and somebody sues to recover their fee?
Right, yeah.
That's real money.
Yeah.
And I have a question too. What if, because we're talking about personal liability here too. So what if one of our board members retires at the end of this year, let's say, and that person is replaced, but someone comes to sue us about something that happened while that person was on the board, but they're not now.
That's a
They
very
would
good
still
question.
have coverage?
Yes, that's
Okay,
very
that's
good.
the question.
Yeah.
Do they still have?
Depending on the allegations in the case, but yes.
Yeah. Which then means that the $1 million goes to 6 people rather than 5 people or whatever. So,
Well, hopefully we don't do, it's
But you
not
have-
like we make money and we make
Right.
decisions because we're lining our pockets. I mean, we make decisions for what's best for Allegheny County
And they're all
our
pretty
neighbors.
public as well.
And, right, and I mean, so probably the worst thing that we're gonna ever spend this money on is defense to prove that we didn't do anything wrong. That, and they'll hire lawyers to defend us. But I mean, what do we do wrong? I mean, follow rules, we're watched by different organizations. I mean, we wouldn't do anything wrong anyway.
You've
So-
been in that situation before,
Yep,
though, a couple
yep,
of times.
Yep.
And it's not unusual, that's what happens in any government
Yeah.
or quasi-government, you get named.
Yep.
So then Rich, you come back to us with a.
Yeah, Chase, I would
proposal?
Chase is
ask him to
making-
do it,
Chase.
yeah, just to see what's available.
Yeah, he's got a full copy of all the questions and he's reviewing it.
Yep.
And he hadn't gotten all the quotes yet. That was one thing, it's probably best to just have the discussion today, but he will come back by the next meeting.
Well, I think it's a waste of time to get quotes if the board
Doesn't wanna
was
do it.
gonna say, you know what, this is pretty
They're not.
good, let's just keep it,
So I think we should go forward.
At least get the quotes.
yeah, I'd
and
like
then
to
make a
ask
decision.
yeah, so I see heads nodding, and so I think
Okay,
we can affirm that we'd like that investigation to be done.
all right,
Come back to us.
all right, I'll ask him to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good discussion, thank you. It's funny, we don't often think about being sued, but it is a,
I do, I
I
think
do.
about it all the time, you guys.
well, I guess it depends what business
That's all I
you're-
think about.
what your occupation is, yeah, okay, thank you very much for that discussion.
Well, it's
Okay.
interesting because Carissa brought it up and I was the mayor of Alfred, and I'm sure we have another mayor who's had that same issue. You get all kinds of weird lawsuits. And the real issue is you're typically never true, but it costs you a lot of money to defend.
And it looks like you're a terrible person when you get those lawsuits, like you're just awful.
And usually you make a decision to settle because it's just easier to settle.
Which,
It drives me crazy, but it's the way of the world.
yeah, it is. let's move on to old business then. The Friendship property sale, where is that?
I've talked to Dan, and Dan's gonna be talking to their lawyer to see if there's some way we can make this work yet. So I'll be, hopefully by next board meeting, I'll say yes or no.
Okay. Okay, the Allegheny County LDC.
Tim had brought a copy of, I already sent you a copy of the resolution the county has approved of us going forward with the LDC, so Dan will now file all the papers, so thereafter we'll have an LDC up and operational. We can do other things that we can't.
Okay. Tim, do you want to comment on
There was no issues, right? I mean,
that? Okay,
I didn't, when I presented it, I know there was no issues, so. Just takes time.
well, it's good that there is a way then to move the whole economic development process ahead.
Yeah, it'll be very helpful to us to have that LDC.
Okay, the Allegheny County Strategic Plan, Economic Development, EDO.
Well, I mentioned, one thing, the EDO is not operational yet, but they're working with Dan as far as filing the paperwork. I think they have their bylaws about finished.
Mhm.
And so they'll be moving fairly soon. And then, we also have, I sent out an invitation next Thursday night. It's at Genesee Valley, and it's gonna be a open forum discussion about economic development that Ashley Smith is running. I'll be at the event. I'm gonna be speaking on behalf of the IDA of what we've been doing and what we can do. So
Is that open to the public?
yes,
Craig?
that's why I sent it
It
to you.
is, yeah. I was just gonna say,
So-
the,
Any one of the board members want to show up, it's there. I don't know who the speakers are. Ashley hasn't given me a full list, but I know she's speaking obviously as well. It's a listening as well to figure out what people want to move forward on.
and just to clarify for the public, again, that is October 17th, 2024 at Genesee Valley Central School in the auditorium, and it's from 5:30 to 8:30. So it is open to the public.
It won't be online probably, right?
I do not know. I don't think she mentioned that. I doubt it.
Okay.
Good,
If it is, I'll get you one.
Okay.
good progress, good progress. Okay,
We've already done the CBDC
Yeah,
enterprise grant.
yeah, so Gateway Center to the Western New York Wilds, and Tom has,
Tom showed up right in
Right-
time.
right
I'm telling you,
in-
how'd you do that?
yeah, why don't,
I missed it.
well, I was gonna say, why don't we, and Carissa Knapp and Tim Boyd are also here for the public. Do you want to pull up to the table so you can talk a little bit? Yeah, I assume you're gonna speak about this.
Wow, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, well, we'll let Craig start it. Where are we at, Craig? And-
Well, the first, I think you should have noticed, we've got, county got officially now have the ARC grant for the water line improvements. So that's one movement. And then I asked Tom to come to talk about where we are on the road and anything else, because he's got all the engineering going for both the water and the sewer out there.
I do. I can tell you on the roadway, we were hoping to start this week. We got pulled off on a red flag PIA for the town of Centerville on a bridge. So we've got guys up there trying to take care of that. As soon as he gets done there, they have actually been there working. We mowed it, we staked it out, did offsets so they can start clearing and grubbing. We did do some clearing and grubbing in the trees in the area inside the curve so we can put the retainage and stormwater facilities in. So as soon as my operator can get back over there, we'll start clearing it. There's not a lot of topsoil there. So we're just gonna, get one of our sods off the top, and then where we asked them to put the stormwater retention system is actually a higher spot with a lot of gravel. So we're gonna use that to help build the road so we don't have to buy it as much. So I can see that being done hopefully by the end of December. Depending on snow, our winter crews can actually help with that as well. So once we get it to subgrade with gravel, we'll end up using those millings. I'm sure you all have seen the big pile of millings that we've milled the old truck stop parking lot, and that's going to be used to top it for now. And that way it will basically barricade it off at that point in time, but it'll be, a available if somebody did want to develop or come in there and do something.
So what, does that come off County Route, what is it, 20?
Yeah, it
So-
loops in off of 20 and back to 20.
Okay, so
Yeah.
does it go in kind of like on the Friendship side of the gas station, of the travel center? And then goes around like,
That's correct.
okay, and comes out down where there's a road now coming out of the farm?
Well, there's, yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
There's a
okay.
metal pole sticking up, and it's almost center line of where the road will come
I'll
back
take a
down.
ride down there.
Yeah. Yep. When you acquired the property, you actually made kind of an umbrella shape.
Right.
That was the handle. So,
In anticipation of putting a road in at some
And then
time.
where's the water going, on the outside of that road or?
so
inside?
water and sewer would go on the outside of that road.
Okay, yeah.
That's correct. That's the plan as of right now. 12-inch ductile iron is what we've designed to go along the outside, 12-inch. I've asked to incorporate valving appropriately. We've been working with Oakley to make sure that he's happy with that, and fire hydrants appropriately around through there.
And what about
we'll work with
electricity?
Craig.
You don't mess with that?
We don't.
But when you dig wherever the water's going, it doesn't go anywhere near that?
There is
Yeah,
no
okay.
buried electric out there at this point, so that's a good thing. I would like to work and figure out, I'd like to put in some T's
Okay.
when we do the install.
Sure.
Part of the contract, because that way they don't have to tap a water line. John knows it's.
That'd be a lot easier, a lot better.
Have a stub out with a valve.
Right.
Even if it's 6-inch at this point, if they have to neck it down, they can neck it down,
Right.
but
It's a lot easier. that
Yeah.
way. Well, we have a layout of a guesstimate of where they're gonna be, and I think that's a pretty good guesstimate. So,
okay. I thought the same thing with a couple sewer laterals.
Right.
You might as well.
Might as well put them in now.
Right. It makes it much cleaner. So, and as of right now, so that's the portion on IDA property. The other part of the project would be putting a tank, up off of the S-curves back onto a piece of property. We were hoping to put it on our property. Elevation wise, it really didn't match well. The Bigelow family, what's Bill's? Max. They have a property just beyond ours, and they theoretically said they will sell us some property up there and an access road.
So is that across the street?
It's actually on the, if
The
you're going
same side.
towards Friendship,
Uh-huh.
you go around the S-curves, over the railroad tracks, around the S-curve. Right now it's a farmer's field.
Yeah.
It would be across the creek and up on the side hill,
On the left?
on the left, as you're going
Okay.
towards Friendship. That is correct.
Then the access road would be actually coming off of Tucker's Corner.
Tucker's Corners Road. That's correct.
So that way you're not crossing the creek to access.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Then what, how many acres does the county own up on that hill? Like 100?
No,
50?
no, I want to say 20-ish.
Okay.
20-ish. Yeah. Yep. So we'd be crossing our property with most of the water line, and then literally within 20 to 30 feet would be the tanks.
Okay.
Well, initial tank. Again, working with Oakley is concerned with having one large tank, stagnant water,
Yeah.
those types of concerns. We've actually programmed it to have 2 tanks, one to start with a 157,000 gallon tank. And if we ever did get additional development necessary, more storage, we have room for another one. So we've verified that will handle a hotel fire flow along with our facilities fire flow. So.
Sounds good.
Any other questions on the water part of it? The other piece of the water,
That water line.
what's that?
Who's going to own the water line?
So the new parcel, new pieces going in has to stay in the county's name
Correct.
because of the funding.
Yeah, we cannot get grant
The
funding.
ACUC will retain ownership of the rest.
That's up to y'all. That's above my pay grade.
Where else would it go?
You can.
I'm operating under the assumption, and that goes back to conversations I had with Craig and Dan Spitzer over years, that the ACUC would really like to transfer that water line to the county. So we've been exploring options on how we would do that. The first step, we need to create a water district or else we cannot receive the water line.
Right.
So we've been exploring what we would need to do to create a water district. We're going to need to create one for the sewer district anyways.
And dare I ask how complicated that process is gonna be?
It's pretty complicated.
It's time consuming, unfortunately, but
But if you want us, the county end, to keep applying for grants to improve it, does that make sense to have multiple pieces owned by multiple people? So it's worth exploring from that end, to just keep going on funding sources.
And that was part of the issue we had with our IIJA application for the water tank and our partner agreement, is that we didn't want.
They want to transfer
somebody else
ownership,
own it.
and we don't want to own more, obviously, anyway.
And that being said, as the county looks into whether or not that's something we could do, we have very talented people looking at it. Tom's great, Terry Ross is great. We have Hunt Engineers, and we have our bond counsel, Doug Goodfriend out of New York City, for ORC, is also kind of a leading expert in the state on water and sewer district formation. So we've kind of formed a core team just to even analyze the issue for the county. So we're looking at it. I don't know what the ultimate resolution out of that will be, or what our board's appetite is, but we will at least have some data when we get into that discussion.
There's no sense in delaying it any longer than it has to.
Probably not.
And can construction proceed without the ownership issue?
I believe so.
I mean, without dealing with the
yeah,
ownership issue?
I believe so, because it's really, both pieces are kind of their own things. We have to obviously have an agreement with y'all, and then with our anticipation is having Oakley maintain it for us through an agreement with Friendship.
Similar to what we have, I would.
Yes, I would say so.
You gonna be able to see the tank from 86?
You would be able to, yeah.
Can we paint Allegheny County on or anything? Is it gonna be cleared out so you can see it?
It will have to be cleared out at least where the tank itself is, and there will be a line where they bring the water line up to it. But much like ours and only, and sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't.
Maybe we can get rid of some extra trees.
Seriously. So it's not gonna be that big. I mean, it's not.
I wanted a tower.
You and a few other people
Right, yeah.
that are no longer on the board.
Well, if it's gonna be big enough that you can advertise on it, might as well advertise on it.
I think it'll be quite big enough.
One of the.
So far away, I don't think.
Right.
Put big enough.
Put a picture of Rich on there.
No.
What about the sewage?
So on the sewer side of things, we progressed with, our initial first thought was, so let me back up.
Right.
We asked Hunt to analyze different solutions,
Right.
how to handle the sewage from, not only from your property, but along that corridor, and knowing we wanted to put DPW facility, transportation facility on the S-curves on our own property. They looked at, it's been over a year now, new facility just to handle the development in that area, neck of the woods, on the S-curves, on the outside of the S-curves, on the way towards that tank, that area. And then we looked at working with Friendship and actually building a brand new facility there that could handle not only that development area, but also Friendship. So we could abandon their treatment facility. That number was way too big, roughly $30 million. So that one went out the door in a hurry. And initially our thoughts, their thoughts were $3 to $4 million for, a facility on our property that would handle our neck of the woods. And then they also had given a cursory look at pumping wastewater back to the Friendship facility. That has come back around because of the costs of the facility, not only the costs, but so cursory numbers right now, we're looking at $8 to $9 million to pump wastewater from your property all the way through to get to Friendship. Well, new facility, new treatment facility on our property with force main, all the collection system, we're looking at $7.5 million. So it brought up the light. All right, we need to take a better look at a force main all the way back. The concern with a new treatment facility is I'm sure you're aware of, it costs money to operate, to own and operate anything. So in the life cycle costs, we're looking at, can Friendship handle the flow? They can handle the flow. That's not a problem. There are some downsides to pumping sanitary sewage that far. You can do it, obviously, but it gets pretty concentrated and, there's some other issues when it comes out. Yeah, sluggish is a good way to put it, but it also is very, very strong and pungent. So you gotta take care of those things. It also becomes very corrosive by the time it gets to that end. So there wasn't enough negatives to say it wasn't worth taking a better look at it. So we can have two good options looking going forward. Because the problem with not only the O&M of a new treatment facility, it's the cost, it's the ability to treat wastewater that's mostly water. Until you have development, you don't have any biological material there for bugs and a treatment facility to operate well. So it would be very, very difficult to operate that facility. And again, working with Oakley, who's very, very knowledgeable about both sides of things. So we're working through that process. We just had a conference call Monday to go over to look at more feasibility of taking it back to Friendship with force mains, combined force mains and gravity, because the road, even though you have 100 feet of fall between Friendship and Quickly's, there's some ups and downs on the right of way. So there are some areas you could gravity, which would allow us to get, because there's the rest area on 86. When they got water, they were asking about sewer, and they would be interested in tying in as well. So there might be other people that would want to tie in. So we're dusting that one off. And like I said, it was over a year ago when they gave a cursory look at that. And we wanted to have good numbers to be able to take to the board to say, we recommend, it's a lesser of two evils. Either way, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to take care of, but what's the right thing for the long term?
And if you had your own plant, would the county have to hire their own people to operate?
We either have to hire somebody, a county employee, or again, hire a town or somebody else to do it. And,
and it's gonna break, there's gonna be problems. You can't just have one guy running the plant. You're gonna have to have a crew.
Correct.
You gotta, and honestly, like Oakley is pretty unique individual. Like the stuff he can do by himself and take on his own shoulders. I don't think you're gonna find one guy that is gonna do that ever.
And we have talented people in the county. I mean, Brian's another one, Brian Fenton's here at the village, but, they're few and far between. So, and truthfully, DEC they will need to see that number before they even give you a permit to build a new plant. They want to make sure that it's not economically feasible to take it to another facility. Because the less discharges, the less concerns they have. So, once we get closer to that number, we really need to start looking at it more in depth. So that's what we're doing right now. I'm hoping to have that done within the next month or so we can take it to the board and make some decisions on that.
Please keep us.
Thank you. I think it was good to have you to give an overview where we are about sewer and water out there, as well as the road.
We're trying to do the right thing, and you're right. Thankfully, Oakley is willing to give his expertise because it helps.
Yeah.
We've got designers and engineers that are experts in their field, but it helps to have somebody that actually.
It's an operational person. You know that. It's a big difference.
And it takes it so seriously.
Well, and as somebody who has a little bit of exposure to wastewater treatment plants, people are hard to find. You want to keep the DEC as far away from you as you possibly can.
Amen.
So there's a lot to be said that can't necessarily pencil and paper.
Right.
There's a lot to be said for going to adding on to another facility.
Yeah, there really is. And that's kind of why we looked at, all right, knowing that they're not at the end of their life, but they're up on their ages in their facility. So we thought, okay, because really one plant is really what should happen, but it's just depending on where. And when we did the numbers to put it on our property, it's astronomical. Whereas if you're only talking, and I know $1 million is a lot of money, but when you're only talking $1 million worth of difference, that can be chewed up really quickly over 5 years, 10 years. So your return on investment is that's what I always look at as the ROI, so.
Important information. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But it's not like we're not working at it. We're trying to do our due diligence and come up with the right plan. So hopefully we can, get a developer and get other people that wanna,
Yeah, like I said, what I need to,
Join on
for the
board.
developers I've been talking about, they want some kind of a timeline. And the timeline we're talking about right now seems like a doable timeline.
Wasn't
For sure.
Friendship sewer plant overbuilt when they were thinking about bringing the prison in there?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And I didn't realize that until Oakley brought that to my attention.
Right.
So, but it also
It's old now.
It is older,
Yeah.
but they've done a lot of upgrades to it to make it, meet what they need to do, and it will handle our flow no problem, especially at the beginning. But it also looks favorable to them in the future when they are going after grants. If it's serving us, it's serving you, it's serving the state, it's serving.
Yeah.
It's better chance of getting some
Better
grant
chance
funds.
of getting more funds.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's just our facility that's just, then it's like, oh, well, we're gonna be at the bottom of the list,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
So I think in the whole scheme of things, it makes a lot of sense to work together, so.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Tom.
thanks.
I know you were busy this
No problem.
morning, but I
No problem.
appreciate it.
No problem.
It's always good to
Do you have anything
communicate,
to
so
add?
we know.
Tim Curry, Carissa, do you?
Other than, we're continuing to apply for, funding options. There's a STAG grant, State Tribal Assistance Grant application that has been submitted in conjunction with Congressman Langworthy's office that has made it to the final cut. At this point, with the continuing resolutions and some of the turmoil in Congress, we don't anticipate that award coming out until maybe December, January, but we're hopeful. And that grant is actually tagged for sewer and water infrastructure in the gateway vicinity. So it looks like there could be additional monies coming. More so in Friendship just got $2 million for that cause. And we have some other money coming from the IIJA that's going to fund the water tank. That project's going to be somewhere around $2 million at least. $4 million.
We also had that IIJA award for a countywide sewer study too, which will help facilitate grants and projects in some of these municipalities and could even help this project down the road for others.
Yeah, Friendship was one of the communities that's been in that grant, so.
So we're continuing to look for alternative funding sources as well that will help this whole economic development corridor from 86 down through the area.
Tim's done a great job hooking us up with a consultant, Delta Development, and it's come in really big for us. Things that we would have a hard time funding without some assistance.
Yeah, we've come close to just shy of $3 million in federal funding that we've been able to look at, assuming this next round comes through. So, awesome.
Good news, yeah.
Well, and if you think OCR is difficult to deal with Mike Zimmerman, see some of this stuff, so. The federal
I'm not even gonna ask
rules
what
are bad.
IIL's, yeah, I'm not even gonna ask what it stands for.
Well, that actually is one of the easiest ones.
Yeah.
The ARC is easy to work with.
Okay.
It's the other federal agencies that'll kill you.
It's part of the COVID Build Back America funds.
Yeah, they're still spending that money, isn't it interesting?
Wow.
And on some of these, you have to have partner agencies in particular. You have to have a basic agency sign off if it's a construction project. And Craig did a great job of hounding ESD to be our basic agency.
Which made Tom happy.
Yes, because otherwise we would be dealing with another agency that's a little bit
Yeah.
more difficult to work with, so.
That was
That
worth,
took time.
that was worth hounding them because I think we ended up with a good place for other ARC grants in the future too.
Correct. Yeah, I worked with the other funding agency in Pennsylvania, it was always our funding of last resort. Well, they will dictate what you can and can't put in the ground.
Right.
So they will minimize, they'll pay for, they'll let you put in a 5-year-old pump for the last 5 years, but you're bonding something for 30 years. Well, it doesn't make sense to put a pump in only the last 5 years. It's not gonna last the whole length of the term of whatever you're putting in.
That's
So-
your problem.
Correct. And then plus they take so much percentage off the top.
Yeah.
And they review everything to the end.
Now, I know the review part is the hassle.
So.
Good. Well, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Tom.
Thank you.
Yeah, very
You're
good.
welcome
Thank you.
anytime. Okay, moving along in our agenda, the next item is clean energy projects. Right?
The only update I also almost gave it in the financial side is we should be closing on the Alley Cat Wind project next week. And they'll be giving us a document that agrees to our fee schedule. And like I said, the other two projects that are outstanding is the Cuba and the small Wellsville project, and I don't have any updates on when they'll be moving forward. We have closed on the 4 Burns projects at NSF, and so they should be starting this fall. So that's good for Burns as well, because they've been trying to get the large Burns project going for 5 years, maybe.
Oh, maybe a couple.
But anyways,
Couple years.
these will be nice projects for Burns as well as us. So.
Should we send them a little note about local labor? You know, should we send them a little letter or? do you think
I've
that's
talked
unnecessary?
to NSF already, but I'll actually do it more officially. I'll have an official email to let him know.
Yeah, okay.
He actually was pretty good. He actually did follow
Yeah,
all the
sure.
laws.
I just thought.
But it's always good
courtesy
to tell
them,
him.
man.
It's courtesy to tell Dave
Yeah.
Norbert to make sure.
Yeah, we're paying attention.
Yeah.
Okay, good. How about the Great Lakes?
Well, as you know, they're talking about pulling out by February-ish on the use of that facility. Talked to Matt. We're still trying to figure out ways to work with them on getting it out in the public domain so people know the facility is open. Hopefully by next meeting, I'll have all those details worked out so we can actually start advertising to see if people are, it's a nice facility. There are definitely some older parts of the facility. You went through, John.
Yeah.
And, but there's some nice parts of it, and it'd be nice to keep parts of it up and actually use it for, I think somebody could come in and use it. It's a
Are they
nice location.
stripping all the equipment out?
Yeah,
other than the
right now they're
electricity?
talking about stripping everything out, decommissioning the wastewater treatment plant. So right now, they have no use for it, so we have to figure out if we can find a way to get somebody in there. But we haven't been able to market it. You know, we've worked with Kathy Young's group out of Cornell, and they had a couple of people, but nothing that's actually came to fruition. And I know Lee James, I've been working with her, we'll hopefully get something by the next board meeting that we can actually go out and market it.
Yeah.
I think there's some pieces that are marketable, there's some nice spaces in there.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
So they're gonna have to continue to pay property taxes on that place?
Well, that's the thing. I think if we can't figure out a way to market and or work with them on getting a new tenant, they'll probably demolish it.
Yeah, okay. That's what they should do.
We're gonna
If it's-
demolish a lot of it anyway.
Yeah.
Yep, that's their
Portion
plan.
of it
That's
has
their
to
plan
go.
right now.
Right, okay. As long, I just don't want it sitting there rotting for
No,
the next
no,
50
They're
years.
not gonna do that because they don't wanna pay taxes on it.
Right.
Yeah, good.
So one way or another, if some of it's usable, I think we could keep parts of it, but they would demolish probably most of it, if not all of it, if no one wants it.
Well, Cuba's a good village to be
It
in.
Well, it's a good
And they
location,
have
it's right
a
off
lot
by
of-
86, and there's
Yeah.
some nice
Things going
spaces in
on.
that building yet. I mean, it's very usable, most of it.
Mhm.
There are some that for sure need to be just taken down, but,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, the EPA brownfield.
I should be getting a grant contract any day. They have not responded to me. We've done all due diligence, and hopefully then we can start that grant, the brownfield grant. So hopefully by the next board meeting, we'll have something to sign off on.
Good. Okay, we'll move on to new business then.
Is there anything that the county would like to bring up since you're here?
Just a reminder, we have a P&D committee meeting next week.
Wednesday,
So
right.
we want to do the MOE for the $300,000 grant. That'll move that cycle forward. So whatever you need to do.
I'll find out by Mike what officially has to be done by the board, yes.
I'm assuming that we'd have to vote on something.
I think you'd have to vote on something, so I'll get from, as soon as I can, to Carissa as far as what we'd have to vote on to extend
Yeah,
it.
the timing is good. So I mean, rather than, then we have.
Well, it's been nice to do it now, so we've got a month to go versus all of a sudden have to
Wait a
do.
month and then.
You know, we'll get that taken care of with Mike, yeah. Because obviously, the one thing the board doesn't know, the county has been very helpful in doing all of the paperwork. It's a lot of paperwork, isn't it?
It is, and technically, it's the
County's
county's
grant.
grant, so we're the one on the hook with OCR for all the paperwork.
Right.
Although, you know,
Mike puts it all together. He does a
Yeah.
great job, so there's not a lot, but there's still a lot
they'll
of
count
paper,
us
still a
first.
lot of paperwork, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Every time we try to get we get money reimbursement, there's lots of paperwork, and Mike does a great job on getting it all done, but they have to pass it on and sign it.
And I've got to sign off, like, this week alone, I think it was, a dozen pages I had to sign off on.
Right.
Or something.
Well, there was some, yeah, we have to have another, public hearing, I think is what it was. There's a public hearing when you start the process and a public hearing at the end of the process, so there's lots of paperwork the county has done, so.
The draws.
The draws as well, every time we do one. And we're on up to draw number 8, so,
Great.
which is good, because the money's going out. Like, good question, Randy, because we've actually expended most of that money, so, which is a good thing. If you don't have anything else, we can probably go in the executive session.
Yeah.
I have okay, there's no good of the order yet.
Go in the order? You wanna
I'll
do
make
something?
a, no, I'll
Go
make
ahead.
a, I'll make a, or I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are now in executive session.
Well, we are as soon as I get us off.
that motion.
Okay, we're out,
Okay.
we're out, we're green, we're ready to go.
Okay, go to the order. John drove down to Boone, North Carolina with his wife with a truckload of stuff for people to help.
Well, how many
So I
trucks?
just wanted
How
to
many trucks?
There were like 12 semis.
Yeah,
12
He
semis
said,
plus
I did
trucks.
all our big trailers and my pickup.
He did it, he and his wife did it personally, so that was
I
very
know.
nice.
Good for
It
you.
was safety
Yeah.
in numbers, that's why we hitched the.
Yeah, yeah.
To their wagon.
Good to tag along.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And everybody can vote now, I think, or at least you can vote absentee.
Yes, the voting's open,
And I don't know if early voting's open, so.
I don't know.
yeah. I think I got something in the
I
mail the other
voted.
day that early voting was open.
I voted already.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna be
Wait a minute.
voting.
Let's move to adjourn.
Let's move to adjourn.
John? Doug?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Okay. Turn around.
we're done.
Don't we have to do a CUC?
You gotta leave?
I got it.
Where are you
I got
going?